Okay, welcome to the next video. This is going to be a little bit long, but I think you're going to start to have some fun with it, so that's good. All right, so we're going to start to write our own program. And some of the examples, some of the assignments are things like write a program to create an animation where such and such happens, or write a program to create an animation where such and such happens. And that's what we're going to start to do. So here's our story. A penguin has discovered a bowling ball and a pin in a crate that washed up on the Arctic ice. The animation that you are to create will show the penguin learning to bowl. The penguin moves forward to the bowling ball. That's a typo, sorry. Then the penguin swaggers left, swaggers right as he considers how to make the ball roll toward the pin. He decides to try pushing the bowling ball towards the pin. When the ball moves forward, it successfully knocks the pin over. Surprisingly, the pin then stands up, shakes itself off, and pushes the bowling ball back at the penguin. Then the penguin is knocked over. This is a great story, and won't it be fun to animate? So we're going to go through some steps. This is actually along the lines of design theory, and engineers use this. So those of you interested in pursuing this, you may have already seen this in other classes, or this might be the first time. But what we're going to do is go through these 4 circles. You're going to understand the problem and then design a solution, implement the design, and test. And the reason that all these lines are like this is sometimes you don't go in this order. Sometimes you go back to understanding the problem if what you designed or implemented doesn't quite work. But we're going to start with understanding the problem. And there are 2 parts. We're going to identify the objects. What are the characters? What are the props? We're going to identify the actions that they do. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit in class, the nouns and the verbs. This is a great way to break it down. So the nouns that we saw in the problem were the penguin, the ball, and the pin. The verbs are things like moves forward, swaggers, and push. And then, later on when you take a look at the pin, you'll add more verbs. So these are going to be our characters. These are going to be our methods. So now what we're going to do is design a solution, which means first develop an algorithm, plan it out, and then we're going to set up the scene. So both of those fall into design a solution. Setting up the scene, you've done this in class. You will be doing it some more. We are going to set all these things up so that you've got the pin, the bowling ball, the penguin with this spacing underneath. And if you haven't done this already in class, you will be learning how to set up so that these distances are precise like that, and also so that they are all in a row. If you are interested in learning more about this, we've talked about the videos that are available to you. This is one of them, Penguin Scene Setup MP4. Okay, so what we're going to do is pick a snow template. Well, that makes sense because they're in the Arctic. You go to the setup scene, you'd pick a penguin, you'd pick a bowling pin, and the sphere could be the best thing for the ball. Okay, another video if you want to check it out is how to control these things. Okay, oh my gosh, so many videos. Now, back to me. All right, so you're going to adjust the ball. You're going to make it black, move it so that its base is on the snow, because if you saw it before, it was sort of buried in the snow, and we want it to be an appropriate size so that it doesn't totally dominate the whole scene. All right, we've already talked about positioning them. And now we're going to look at our procedures. What you can do, and you may have seen this in class already, is within the scene setup, you can use those procedures to actually move your penguin and your ball and your pin to certain places, right? So, for example, I guess he's called Penny. That's cute. Okay, so Penny, for example, would move forward exactly 1 meter, and that would help you really place it exactly. Okay, camera views, you've done this, but if you want to watch another video, knock yourself out. All right, layout view, you've probably dealt with this. This is a great way, really, really important to make sure they're all in a line, because you can really be fooled by the appearance. So this is important to check. Okay, some alternate techniques. You could actually use these X, Y, and Z coordinates to figure out where everything is. You've played with this in class. I'm going to skip over that part. Okay, here's more fun. Now, create an algorithm. It's kind of a funny little analogy. If you're a costumer, maybe you would sketch a costume. If you are designing a car, you would draw the car. Animators can create storyboards, and we've talked about this a little bit. I don't know if you recognize this. This is from Star Wars. I think it might be the 6th one, but you can look more carefully and decide. All right, so here's our storyboard. First one is penguin pushes a ball, ball strikes the pin, pin stands up. Okay, you can think about the sound and the text that go along with it. Apparently, this pin standing up could have a sound called thunk. We'll get there. And the algorithm is really just a to-do list of the storyboard of what you're going to make happen. Okay, it's a little bit more detailed than the sketches. So, for example, and all we did was take the words from the story and really put them in a to-do list. Instead of a paragraph, it's a list. And another thing that's important is deciding what you want to do in order and what you want to do together. So, doing in order, penguin moves forward towards the ball, penguin swaggers, penguin pushes the ball, pin falls over, pin stands back up, penguin falls over. And meanwhile, the ball is going to roll as well. Okay, and object markers, I think by the time you watch this video, you all will have played with those as well. Now, let's go back to design. So one by one, we're going to address these lines, and each of these lines is really going to be a method. So, or a statement. I'll qualify that. A statement or a method. A statement is just the one line. The method is a group of lines. So if we want to do penguin move forward towards the ball, all right, we'd have to implement that. So implementation is the act of translating the storyboard into a computer programming. I'm going to go back for a second. We're going to take these lines right here and turn it into a program. That's called implementation. And what's really nice about the way they're organized step by step is it shouldn't be that hard to do. Okay, so implement the design means take your storyboard that you did and decompose it into simple steps. And here we go. You're going to write just a few steps at a time, absolutely not the entire program at once, and you're going to test it and make sure it runs, because you don't want to go spend a ton of time writing out the entire thing only to find out it's a huge disaster. And that's the great thing about Alice. Okay, so first line, penguin moves towards the ball. Not that hard to do. You guys have already done this. You'll take this, drag this in, you'll decide the direction, and you'll decide the amount. And it goes right into my first method. You see that? It's a little tab right here associated with scene. So these, if you're in the scene setup, this helps you position it, but these in the code editor are really going to make it happen, okay? Like I said, it's good for setup, and this is good for the action. So this is really, once you get the scene set up, this is where you're going to do most of your work, okay? And these are giving you your options of what you could have the penguin do. Like I said, before you write the whole thing, just write a little bit and test it out. Does it work no matter what? You might even want to try some different values and see how that works. That's going to be more important when you are having the user input some values. So just keep that thought in mind, and we'll definitely come back to that. All right, so when you run it, Alice, as you know, just builds the scene, and we'll start to execute it. These are terms that you may see when you get into more programming later on. Things like executable files are created. Just, again, if you're interested in pursuing programming after this course, tuck that phrase into your mind. Okay, the next line, penguin swagger. Well, if you were to look at Alice, you would not see a method called swagger. What are you going to do? You're going to write it yourself. So this is how they're going to define swagger. They define swagger, and actually this was part of the paragraph. The penguin rolls to the left, the penguin rolls to the right, the penguin stands up straight. You may not think that that means swaggering, and that's totally up to you, but you could try playing it and figure it out. And guess what? We're going to do that in the next video. That is going to be us creating our own methods, aka also known as teaching a penguin to swagger. It just doesn't get any better than this. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.